Welcome back to the Daily Dribble podcast, guys. As always, I'm your host, Nick Zammit, here fit and firing on the 5th of March for an action-packed episode. Joining me is Mr. Lee Hancock.
So my guys, Lee here.
And Mr. Roy Hancock.
How are we, Nick?
The boys are back, guys.
Good.
Massive episode today. It has been an action-packed week. Every week is. But today we're going to kind of channel that intensity that's been shown on the court. We're going to channel it into today's episode. Today, we have the return installment of everyone's favourite debate segment, Judge, Jury, and Executioner. It's almost a bit of a battle of the brains, this one. So for any of our new listeners, we'll explain that shortly before we get into it. But certainly looking forward to that.
And just from memory, just quickly, Nick.
Here we go.
These are actually one of, if not the most heated type of episodes, these debates, aren't they?
They are.
I think
This is a real test of where we're at as a group.
Bit of steam coming out of the ears.
And I know you and I, Lee,
I was going to say, what two of us that don't mind having a bark at each other? I think it's probably me and you, Nick.
I think it's you and I.
You just clash sometimes, but that's good.
That's good. And
We
to
need
be
it.
honest, I think with the topics we've got in store today, I think there's going to be a couple of tight tussles in the fold. So looking forward to that.
Agree.
Guys, we'll also recap some odds and ends and the week that was. Before we get into it, though, a big shout out to both the Spotlight Sports Network and The Cover with Liam McGrath there. Really appreciate being part of both those groups there who are, just enhancing and leveling up the podcast game for content creators such as ourselves. So super excited and appreciate everything that you're both doing.
Sure.
Guys, we ticked over 1,900 Instagram followers during the week. We are well on the march to 2,000. So everyone who's rocking with us, we really appreciate it. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, wherever you listen to the show, like, subscribe, do all that great stuff. We certainly appreciate it. And looking forward to that big 2,000 milestone, aren't we?
It's not far away. What can we do to celebrate the 2K? I feel like it's a monumentous occasion. What can we do?
Would it be fair to get pissed?
I mean, we don't
fair?
really need a special occasion for it, but
Twisting my arm.
yeah.
No, but we'll
Easily
have something in
twisted.
store. Looking forward to that.
I'm promoting the podcast, actually. I've done a fair bit of promoting
Have
at
you?
work. We've got this notice board and we've just done this new spotlight thing, staff spotlight. And I've had to say a bit about myself, a fun fact. I've not only
Brilliant.
put that I do a basketball podcast, the name's on it too.
Fantastic.
Fancy going into the dentist for your annual checkup, and you've got this guy sprouting his podcast while your mouth's
I
wide
have to
open.
plug it.
Well, I
I
kind
don't
of
know
get
about
away with it. Like working in the sports or Intersport there, shout out to them as well. I drop it to every Tom, Dick and Harry that goes past, but it kind of fits in, whereas the dentist is just completely left
Exactly
field.
right. There's no segue. How do you segue the podcast, Lee? That's my.
It was something you can catch Liam doing on the weekends on his podcast, the Daily Dribble.
I like it,
Yeah,
mate.
no, that's good.
Fair play to you there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Guys, let's get into it. Odds and ends. I'll kickstart us here.
Yep.
With the news that former number one pick, he's had over a year out in the sidelines with a torn ACL, Markelle Fultz made his triumphant return to the league for the Magic the other day.
Exciting.
Came in their 119-103 win over the Pacers. He dropped 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 6 assists in 16 minutes. So how do we feel about this, fellas? Former number one pick, isn't that, just funny to say?
It is. Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago, really, that he was drafted with all that hype. And
That
I
was
think
the same year Tatum.
Would have been.
Yeah.
I reckon it was actually.
Ooh.
But he was one of those guys coming into the league that many thought would be ready-made
Yes.
for the league. And obviously injuries have riddled his career so far. But it's so good to see him back for the simple fact that just prior to his injury, he was actually showing glimpses of being a very valuable player going forward. So keen to see him back.
To be honest, from just what we saw the other day, his jump shot looks a little bit better, a smoother motion because that thing was broken.
It was stuffed, wasn't
So
it?
good to see there. Just a quick question though on the Magic. We don't shine too much of a light on the Orlando Magic here, but you look at how they're kind of constructed now. They've got those kind of 3 key young guards. You've got Suggs, you've got Cole Anthony, and you've got Fultz now. If you've got to run with 2 of them, who's the third piece getting chopped, would you say? Just in this hypothetical question. If you had to cut one of them, who are you getting rid of?
The one off the bat is Suggs. I'd say he's getting chopped. I just see more value out of the other 2.
I think Cole Anthony, you lock him in. don't you,
He's
Ray?
love Cole in.
automatic, isn't he? It's interesting though because look, I would probably cut Suggs. In saying that, I'm still worried about Markelle Fultz and his injury concerns.
Absolutely.
So that is the big worry. But just based off what we've seen so far, and given the fact that Markelle Fultz has showed he can, be a valuable player going forward, I think I'd cut Suggs, unfortunately.
Now, here's a quick little one, because I think one of you guys this morning, if memory serves correctly, might have picked this bloke up in our fantasy league off the waivers. Victor Oladipo is set to make his return within the week, within the next few days. I think they face the Rockets. Is it on Monday or Tuesday? Forgive me. But Victor Oladipo making his return to the league. You see benefit there?
You know why I picked him up? I picked him up. I dropped Nick Claxton because he's been playing awful. I picked up Oladipo. I just put him on the injury list. I put him on IL just to see how he's going.
Well, I did that with Michael Porter Jr. because he's set to maybe come back pretty shortly. But Oladipo, how do we feel about this? This Heat team is rolling at the minute.
Yeah, we talked about it before, and it's going to be interesting to see the role that he does play. You wouldn't expect him to get too many minutes, and it is a team with a lot of high volume scorers. So no, I'm excited for Depot to come back, but what are we going to get out of him?
What do you reckon, Ro? Do you reckon he'll be able to perform?
Time will tell. He's been out of the game a long time. I think he might take a little bit of time to readjust.
Yep.
But I think once he gets back into the full swing of things and can say, on top of his injury concerns, who's to say he can't get back to, being a super valuable player. Likewise with Lee, I'm interested to see the role he plays for this team, because they've already got their core group of guys. I'm assuming he'll have to come off the bench going forward.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. How's it going to be in conjunction with Tyler Herro?
I tell you what, man, is cooking at the minute. He is scorching hot.
Yeah.
That guy is just like, he's almost doing what Jordan Clarkson did, the last couple of seasons, but doing it better. The way he comes off and can score like at a blistering pace is phenomenal.
So fun to watch, isn't it?
Oh, and what a benefit to that team, having a guy that you can entrust with that second unit to not only keep things afloat, but actually enhance what the starters are doing.
It's quite spectacular to see the turnaround, though, from last season. Like, how do you go from his performance last season to, I think, yesterday, dropping 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists? It's quite crazy.
Let me pose this, because his stocks were on the rise in the bubble, and then they came plummeting back to earth.
Yes,
they did.
Back on the rise now, and, probably at his peak value. Do you think that can continue, or do you think, there's a chance to have a regression? So far it's been an up and down kind of ride with Hero so far. But do you think he's really poised to make his mark in the league and really become a legitimate superstar?
I don't know about superstar. It's always hard to predict, how players are going to play in the future, because you don't know. But I guess we've seen him regress before. So there's always that chance that it could happen. We saw it happen with Jordan Clarkson a bit this year. But my hope is that he can, if he's in the role he's in now, he can just stay performing the way he is.
Fun guy to watch.
And I think the same as well. And I think he had to have that year, that down year.
Heat check year.
It was a heat check year because he was so hot the year
Pun
before.
Intended. Good, it's good.
No, he in that role, he thrives in it. I think he'll be valuable going forward.
Well, a guy who we've spoken about a lot, we won't touch on this one for too long, but Ben Simmons is apparently dealing with back soreness since his inclusion with Brooklyn there. Just in the reconditioning process, the muscles need to be strengthened a little bit before we see him back on the court. No timetable as of yet, but this is. It's just so frustrating, isn't it? Because this guy's in, like, I've spoken to quite a lot of people actually at work during the week about this Ben Simmons situation, and he's in the ideal place for him.
Yeah.
I won't speak about it too much, but the shooters and the team that's kind of constructed around him, like, he is in the perfect, position to thrive here. And really the key part is getting on the court. He just has to play. So we certainly hope it's sooner rather than later.
But we expected this. When you have however many months he had off, I expected he wouldn't.
But why has he not been conditioning himself while it's not as if he's been injured. He's been dealing with mental health stuff.
Yeah, that's a question I think we'd all love to know, but we know how poor Ben Simmons is at, conditioning for the NBA.
Hypothetically, just say you come around to the playoffs and he's ready to go. He hasn't played a game so far this season. Yep. Are you putting him into the lineup come playoffs?
Well, I tell you what, the question will be whether they make the playoffs or not, given they're currently sitting in the play-in picture.
Good question.
Let's base it on that, the play-in, and it's like, say it's a do-or-die game. I think that's tough. I think you've got to put him in.
I think he plays.
You've got to play him, I think.
Yeah, of course you do.
But I tell you what, they will just be going wild, the Nets fans, if he decides not to shoot. in a do-or-die game and he lets them down.
All I ask for is a matchup in the playoffs, Philly against the Brooklyn Nets. Is that too much to ask?
Unbelievable. That would be must-watch TV.
You reckon Ben Simmons is a bit nervous and scared to come back after the backlash?
I think he's putting on this. It's sort of like a persona that he's not overly worried.
Yeah.
But I just imagine coming back to that hostile environment. He would be shitting himself.
I think he'd be
really
feeling a lot better knowing he's not in Philly anymore.
Yeah.
But, on the chance that they do have to go to Philly in a playoff series, I reckon he'd be pulling the old sicky trick. There would be no MJ flu game. There would be the sick game, I'm having it off.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree.
On the track of the Brooklyn Nets, though, I just want to say, assuming the cases stay on track, New York are assuming they're going to lift their vaccine mandate on the March the 7th. So 2 days, meaning Kyrie Irving will be able to play all games.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, it's just we don't understand just how important that will be and how big of a loss he has been at times.
This game the other day where he dropped. Oh, it was earlier in the week, I think, and he dropped like 37 points, and he put on an absolute clinic and just kind of refreshed in everyone's mind what a quality player he is. It'd be a massive inclusion for them and certainly helping their push in the back end of the season here.
Yep.
Michael Porter Jr. is also set to be cleared for on-court contact within the next week. We're expecting to see him hopefully during the month of March, but for the Nuggets, a team that's really kept things like Jokic has done such a phenomenal job in keeping things afloat here. Without his two main running mates in Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray.
Absolutely.
Hopefully he can come back. And again, a guy with so much potential, hopefully he can start to put things in place to help him get to the next level.
Yeah.
And Lee, your boys, the Hornets, Isiah Thomas signed a 10-day contract with the Hornets. He averaged 41 points over his last 3 G League games, which got him into that position for another 10-day contract.
Yeah.
Now, we've spent a lot of time on IT just because he's bounced around with so many 10-day contracts. Do you think the Hornets are a good fit for IT?
No, I'm going to say no. I've explained how I feel about IT and that we've given him a fair few chances over the last year, and with his 10-day contracts, he hasn't really performed. We've got an abundance of guards over at the Hornets. We don't really need IT. I love you, IT, but performing in the G League and performing in the NBA are two different things. You can drop 40 points in the G League and then he comes to the Hornets, he dropped 10 points.
Well, just quickly, did you hear, I digress slightly, but was it the Celtics are picking up Nick Stauskas?
Yeah.
He's dropped 100 points over his last 2 G League games. He had, I think, a 57 and a 43.
Yeah.
So there you go. But
again, I seem to think he would come to the NBA and the level, the talent level discrepancy will be quite big. But still, he's done everything that he should have done in the G League. So.
IT just need, I keep saying it, but he just needs to be set for a couple of months, like Lance Stevenson.
Yeah.
Get the contract and just be given till the end of the year to have a little bit of, weight off the shoulders and be able to play a little more freely because 10 days, you've only got a handful of games to actually prove your worth. And there is a big amount of pressure. So
absolutely, hopefully
he can rise to it and continue to, find time within the league.
Yeah. Can you talk about Giddey? Can you bring him up, or should I?
If you go,
Giddey, fourth month in a row, he's won rookie of the month. Sorry,
in the Western Conference, he has just dominated it.
And for some unknown reason, he's still not in rookie of the year contention.
I heard that this morning. That was all about Mobley and Scotty Barnes, and I was thinking, you can't be serious. This guy's won 4 on the trot. He's an all-star. He's not an all-star, should I say? It was in the all-star, reserves, not the reserves. What do you call it? The rookie game.
Yeah,
They've changed the name this year, the Rising Stars
Rising
game.
Star.
But nevertheless, what he's doing, he's, not semi-close to, averaging a triple-double, and it's really kind of paving the way for rookies, yet not probably getting the accolades he deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a shame because you tend to think if he was a US product, he'd be, so highly regarded at the moment, but he's not getting the credit.
I tell you what, this Rookie of the Year race, though, is going to be incredible. You've got those 3. You've got Cade Cunningham, who's starting to kind of hit his straps and, make us realise why he was a number 1 pick.
Yep.
Then you've got Jalen Green as well, who's, seen a bit of an uptick. He had a huge game the other day versus the Jazz in their overtime loss. So also starting to make a bit of noise. But there is 4 to 5 really legitimate chances here of winning it. So
a lot of rookies starting to find their feet as the season progresses, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Which tends to be the case most years.
Yep. Lads, love it. Real quick one from me. The Lakers are waiving DeAndre Jordan. They've signed DJ Augustine and Wenyan Gabriel.
Thoughts?
DJ,
Lakers
another
fan?
old name. God.
Doesn't move the needle much. We'll probably touch on the Lakers a little bit later in the show, but
Yeah.
I'll just, I guess, forewarn that there's nothing good to say. And Philly emerging as the most likely destination there for DeAndre Jordan. At the minute, losing backup big man Andre Drummond. They've got Willie Cauley-Stein kind of filling that backup role. DeAndre Jordan, I think, could almost be at the end of his line. He's more of just a locker room hype guy now. I don't know how much he can bring on the court.
He's
So
a Jared Dudley at this point.
every team
Where is
needs a
he?
Jared
Where
Dudley.
is
though.
Duddles?
Huh?
Where is Duddles?
That guy's history, isn't he?
I feel like he's still somewhere.
He's like on the Lakers. Just
He
He
hasn't
probably
gone-
is, eh?
He hasn't gone into the shadows, I don't think.
God,
just yet,
there you
Douglas.
go. Jared Dudley, a name not being mentioned probably on this pod ever before.
since
but
no,
there you go.
we haven't mentioned him since the bubble.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, Bubble
Bubble
Dudley.
Bubble Duddle.
That's got an alright ring to it. Fellas, do you have anything else from the NBA odds and ends?
No.
Okay, I'll just mention a couple of quick points here from the NBL. Only a handful of games to go before the playoffs. Actually, after the episode, we're doing a little early episode here today. Driving up to Launceston afterwards to see the boys take on the New Zealand Breakers.
You are?
Yep.
The long, arduous road up to
Yeah,
North Tassie.
he's
Up the old
dedicated.
He's
Midlands
keen.
Highway, a couple of hour trip, but looking forward to that.
Yep.
Went to the game on Monday night. Absolute, just phenomenal to see the Jack Jumpers play the Wildcats. See our boy Vic Law lighting it up. He was phenomenal. And Bryce Cotton, like I ended up going with a few of the work people, and I said, this is the guy. This is the damn MVP the last few years. He is next level.
NBA quality.
NBA quality, and he just tore it apart. We had a really bright start, but ended up going down 89-78. Really missed Will Magnay there, just on the offensive boards in particular. Vic Law was just eating them for fun. And just the offense was pretty stagnant. I don't know if either of you guys watched the game.
Watched a little bit of it.
Just the offense was so stagnant, just settling for threes. I think they got a little bit gun-ho after their performance against the Illawarra Hawks the other week. But, it'll be pretty hard to make the playoffs now. But just want to say what a phenomenal, and we'll do like an end-of-season recap for the NBL, but what a phenomenal first season it's been. The way they've kind of captured, I guess, the whole nation's imagination with what they've been able to achieve as a first-year franchise is fantastic. And the league as a whole, it's really a battle for the top four now. We've got 5 teams who are really, really conjoined at the top with the Wildcats, Melbourne United, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, the Illawarra Hawks, and probably the surprise packet of them all, the Sydney Kings, really jostling. 5 teams for 4 spots. It's going to be a chaotic last couple of weeks for the NBL before the playoffs.
Yeah. Now, true or false, Nick?
Yeah.
You've got courtside tickets to this upcoming game.
Well, yes. I didn't fork out a cent for them. They were a nice gift.
That was my follow-up question. How did you go about getting them, and how much did you pay for them?
A little silver tongue serpent over here, just spinning a yarn. But I need to make sure we've actually got the tickets. Like they've
Not
kind
certain.
You haven't secured them?
I haven't got them in my hand as of yet. So
Okay.
I tell you what, it'd be a long drive up the highway to not have them.
So,
But I tell you what,
horrible.
look out for any NBL fans. If you catch this, we'll upload this episode very shortly. If you catch this episode before the game, it tips off 5:30 there.
Yep.
Look courtside. It's free food, free drink.
Free autograph?
I hope so. Yeah.
No,
Absolutely,
are you
mate.
giving
For me.
out autographs?
Oh, absolutely. I'll have the
If
Daily
anyone
Double
comes
jumper on.
out.
But free drink, so look out. You might even see me
Free
on the court
drinks.
at one point or another. I'm going for the half court shot, to be honest.
can you please? That would make my whole year.
Here we go. Just quickly, they've had one like the last couple of games. So they bring a couple of people out and they've got 3 shots. They've got a half court shot, a
Right.
3-pointer, and a free throw.
Yep.
How do you reckon you fellas would fare?
So
Look, I'm not even certain I'd make the. Did you say layup was one?
No, free
Oh,
throw.
God.
And I've not seen anyone make it yet.
to be perfectly honest, I feel like I'd have more shot getting the 3-point
Yeah,
shot than the
me
free
too.
throw. The
Yeah.
pressure for that
I
free
think
throw,
so.
too much for me.
And the
with
half
all eyes
court
on.
heave, my levers here, my pipes just don't have it in them.
No.
I reckon you've actually, in the times we've gone to shoot,
Yeah.
Lee, you've got actually a pretty good half court heave. So
I do. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
heaves it, doesn't he?
you kind of almost do the push pass, don't you?
Yeah, and after that a discussion last week about the 3-pointers. I watched our 3-point video. I went 40% from the field. That was pretty good.
Lee was lights out that
That was
day, I will
pretty
say.
much-
Bit of an anomaly, I think.
It
there.
was a bit odd, wasn't it?
No.
There you go, Lee. You've done well, my friend. Fellas, we've got to pay the bills. So, the team at Manscaped, we are very, very proud to announce we have got a continued partnership. We secured the bag.
Yes,
So,
we did.
we are very happy to proudly announce our continued partnership with Manscaped.
Yeah.
You know, guys, next level in men's grooming, and it's really helped elevate not only myself, but I think both of ours and a lot of our listeners who have jumped on board with us. I've heard nothing but good reviews from all the products.
Likewise.
And most in particular this morning, I got out of the shower, had a little bit of a shave, bit of a tidy up, whatever else, and the ball deodorant.
Yes.
Now,
Yep.
you know,
We love
I am an absolute stickler for hygiene. I froth it. You know, someone who smells nice, it really makes a difference.
It does.
And I firmly believe that if you're, you know, your body should be clean, your body should smell good, but why shouldn't your balls?
No one asked this question, and it
Why
needs to
shouldn't
be
your balls?
asked.
And often, you know, if you've got smelly balls, you know about it very, very quickly.
You do.
So we here are priding ourselves on our grooming game. Very excited to announce it. We've got some new products on the way that we're super excited to share. But just want to reiterate everything that they're doing, from the ball deodorant, the crop reviver, the crop preserver, everything Manscaped are doing at the minute. Guys, you need to jump on board with this. Have your balls smelling and looking as fresh as ours. Manscaped.com.au. Use our code Dribble20 to get 20% off and free shipping. Might I add? Free shipping.
Free shipping, that's the big one.
That is big.
Free shipping. Can I just be honest? When you order something online, it's like if anyone who ever's ordered on eBay, and you see sometimes they sting you $15-$20 for shipping. It turns you off the
I mean,
product.
it can completely deter me from buying the product. So
Yes.
I think it's a huge thing.
So Manscaped, continuing, should I say? As I said, we've got new products on the way, continuing to elevate the game in men's grooming. It really is the ultimate in men's grooming.
They are.
There's no other way to put it. It is the ultimate brand, company, and products for everything your balls need. So, guys, jump on board with the Daily Dribble team. Use the link just below, right there. Link in our bio as well on all of our socials. Use the code Dribble20 and upgrade your ball game to ours.
To
It's never been
eliteness.
better.
Yes.
And we look forward
Absolutely.
to continuing to share. We've got some big things in the work with Manscaped. So we'll share them over the coming weeks, but some really cool new products, super jacked to share with you guys. So keep an eye out for them. Thank you, Manscaped. Beautiful.
Rightio.
Ball game, next level. Let's move ahead to our favorite debate segment, judge, jury, and executioner. It's iconic. What a tune.
Wow. Oh, no, not that bit. I think I went too early. Oh,
You can't not listen to this tune and like bop along with it.
you just feel... I
It's
feel
so
like this
fitting
is,
for the show.
it's a song that you could walk down the main street of the city and just feel like the main character at the end of the day.
It's a bit Taxi Driver, isn't it?
Bum, bum. Unbelievable there. Law and Order. What a show. I tell you what, just quickly again, I just love it. But do you guys enjoy watching those kind of shows? The Criminal Minds, Law and Order,
Blacklist?
Blacklist,
Blacklist.
absolutely.
Now,
But those kind of shows?
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know this is deterring a little bit.
No,
but
no, we love it.
We
This is
used to
where
have
we go.
the Entertainment Weekly segment, and goodness me, I would be sprouting Blacklist that hard if that was still around, and we need to
I'll
bring that
it
back.
Well,
bring back my love child.
because I remember I did it. I think the first time we did Entertainment Weekly said the Blacklist.
Did you just?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
so at that point, there wasn't as many seasons. So you might be able to come in and do it again and kind of recap the last few
yeah,
seasons.
happy to do that. Happy to do that.
What a show, the Blacklist, for anyone out there. Wow, how'd we get onto that?
I don't know, but
Fellas,
Well
we have
worth
got 3 massive battles in store today. Looking forward to them. We might start with mine first and foremost. So just quickly, for anyone who hasn't seen this segment before, Judge, Jury, and Executioner, we've got 3 separate battles. Each of us will put forth a battle to the other 2. They'll duke it out. And the judge who asked the question will then kind of rule in favour of who they think had the best case put forth for their particular answer.
very keen.
It does. There's a lot of bragging rights on the line here. I know I've kind of somewhat struggled in the past. I always get real close, but not quite over the line. So here's hoping today is a different story altogether. Guys, I might start with my battle to you 2.
Go ahead.
Now, I'm really looking to see a really solid case put forth here for the first case in the Daily Dribble Courthouse. The question is, who is your pick for MVP and why? Really sell me on it.
I'll go first. I'm going first.
Go first.
I just points already for the intensity coming out of the gate and really owning it.
That was a bit of a power move, I won't
It
lie.
was.
Probably the most dominant big man in the league this year. I'm going with Joel Embiid, Jojo. You could probably put Giannis up there with being the most dominant, but I think that Joel Embiid has done it at a higher level. He's just second behind Joel Embiid, behind Giannis Antetokounmpo, in scoring with 29.3 points a game, and that puts him within striking distance of being the first center to lead the league in scoring since Shaq in 2000. So that even how much MVP voters love the narrative. That'd be a story there itself. He did miss some time with COVID, which sets him back a little bit. But you saw how not bad, but the Philadelphia 76ers are pretty hopeless without him. I think they even might have slipped down to a playing spot. They were on a massive losing streak, and him coming back and putting him to second in the East just speaks volumes to
That's second, are they?
second in the East
look
right
it up.
now. Just speaks volumes to how much of an impact he brings to the 76ers. He's kept them in home court contention coming into the playoffs. And probably the biggest narrative of it all, he's done it all without Ben Simmons. Through the rumors, through the drama, he's come out on top, and he's proved that he's that leader of the Philadelphia 76ers, and he's led them to second in the East, and he's been so dominant while doing it. Me personally, in my core, Joel Embiid is going to win the MVP this year.
Let me pose a question to you then.
Go ahead.
So we've still got a few weeks to go, and we'll hear from Ro in a moment. But a few weeks to go with the inclusion of James Harden now, especially in this kind of the last month or two, Tyrese Maxey's starting to ball out as that third option.
Yeah.
Do you think there's the potential, especially Harden, that he might take a few votes away from Embiid just because we're going to see him put up big assist numbers, point numbers, everything of the kind? It might just slightly take away from what Embiid's doing, and maybe recency bias comes into play. Take a little bit of the shine off Embiid in the last few weeks.
Look, if it was the Houston Rockets, James Harden coming over, I'd probably say yes, because he was a pure scorer, and he was probably he was just an all-out scorer. Since he's gone to the Nets, he's fully transformed his game to be a guy who can score at will when he wants, but he's mainly a facilitator now, and he's probably one of the best, if not the best in the game. And it goes without saying that James Harden is going to help Philly win. And we know how important a good record is to an MVP case. So to cut my answer short, no, I don't think that James Harden is going to take votes. I think he's actually going to improve Joel Embiid's odds.
Well, let me just kind of counter back to that almost.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, I guess, in comparison with what Chris Paul and Devin Booker are doing.
Yes.
Chris Paul's almost playing that James Harden role in the sense, facilitating more, being the key cog who kind of runs the offense, and Devin Booker being the Joel Embiid who just out and out scores.
Yeah.
Certainly not identical cases with the way Embiid defends and rebounds and everything of the kind, but the way they've kind of cannibalized each other, you're not seeing similarities there?
I guess I see similarities,
and neither of which Chris Paul and out at the moment and Devin Booker are really in that MVP talk.
Yeah, I see that, but I just think James Harden improves Joel Embiid's gameplay immensely, and that speaks volumes for how good Joel Embiid was playing without James Harden there. So I don't think it'll be too much of a issue. I think it'll in fact better him.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
Okay, so sorry, Your Honor.
This courthouse is
Sorry,
running
Your
a
Honor.
muck. You need the big bloody
I
mallet.
apologise. Where's the hammer? So you think Joel Embiid will win it, but do you think he should win it?
Oh,
Yes, definitely. What do you mean? I wouldn't be putting this case.
Have a
for
think
it.
about it. Have a think about it.
Do you think he should win it?
Yes.
After
Like given some of the other candidates that are in and around the picture, do you think he should win it based off what the award is all about, being
Yes.
the most valuable?
Yes, he's very valuable to his team. Why do you think that's?
Oh, no doubt he's valuable, but is he the most valuable?
Whoa,
I
this
think
is
so.
this is
No,
good
no.
stuff.
What's your response?
I think so. I think
Hmm.
someone who's second in the league in scoring, someone who has be able to lead that team without Ben Simmons by his side. I'd say without a doubt he's definitely most deserving for the MVP.
No,
I'm
that's
not
fair.
saying the other candidates aren't around the mark, because there are a couple other guys that have had outstanding seasons. I just think Joel Embiid has had the most outstanding season.
Well, let's transition to your
Ooh,
your
okay.
what do you call it?
My case,
Your
my
case.
I don't
What-
know.
what- I've
My
got-
defense.
Your defense. That's the word I was
Argument.
looking for.
No, it's
Your defense.
Argument.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
What do
we've
we
just
wanna
lost the
call it?
terminology in amongst the
We have.
excitement of everything.
No legal junkies amongst us, are they?
No, it would have been fun though, wouldn't it?
To study law.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
Not just study law, but I think to be
To
in
just
the
get straight
courtroom
there.
and give them the old "you can't handle the truth," something like that.
Yeah, that would be quite fun. I won't lie. And let
Tom
me just.
Cruise, Jack Nicholson, step there.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Ah,
you
Judge.
good men.
Let me just say, Your Honour, you're looking very nice today, very groomed, and I think the manscapes worked quite well on you. I just thought I'd get that out of the way.
Little
And
bum liquor.
yeah,
I
there we
like
go.
it though.
Um,
It's good for my ego.
yeah, I know. And we need to stroke that ego, don't we?
Absolutely. What have you got for me, big boy?
Look, prior to looking into this, and when the question was asked, my immediate thought, and I'm an honest man, you've got to be honest in court. My honest thoughts were that Joel Embiid would be the recipient of the MVP this year. Now, this was due to the fact that I was buying into a lot of media push, because we know every single year the media try to run a narrative to make one of these MVP candidates stand out more than the other. I think they've done that with Joel Embiid this year. I've looked into it, done my own research, as I think you need to. My pick this year will be Nicole Yokic
Back to
to
back.
go back to back. Now, we've seen in recent years, with probably the exception of Giannis, that it's quite difficult to go back to back in MVP.
Absolutely.
Purely due to what I was mentioning before, the fact that the media try to push other candidates into the limelight, which is 100% understandable. We all want these guys to get their roses while they're still around. But Nikola Jokic, now, I'm a man of stats because I think stats are super important.
That's stat, isn't it?
It's a fact at the end of the day. So Nikola Jokic this year averaging 25.4 points, 13.8 rebounds. That's 3 rebounds up from last year in his MVP year, and it's a career high. 7.9 assists and shooting 56% from the field, which is absolutely unheard of. So let's look at it from a statistics point of view. He's having an all-around better season than he did in his MVP year.
Yep.
In terms of rebounds, as I said, he's the highest amount of rebounds average in his career. Now, we'll also look at the company that he had last year in comparison to this year. So we've got Michael Porter Jr., as we were mentioning before. He's only played a measly 9 games this season.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, he played 61 games. So he was a contributor to the Nuggets, helping out Jokic on a nightly basis. He was averaging 19 points. So that's 19 points that Jokic didn't have to score.
Yep.
Also, Jamal Murray, who hasn't even played a game this year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he played the majority of games last year. So he's their second best player, and he hasn't played a game this year as well. So I think we just have to have a proper think at what valuable actually means. Who's the next best player for the Nuggets? I would argue this year it's been Will Barton.
I'd say Barton.
Who's the next best player for the Philadelphia 76ers?
James
Obviously, Harden hasn't been there, and I'm not going to include him at this point.
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, I'd say.
Seth Curry when he was there.
Seth Curry, Matisse Thybulle, Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond was bowling out.
So you've got to think of the guys who are there to support him. And then, all things considered, this is my last point. So the 76ers are second in the East at the moment, and that's it's incredible. And I agree with all the points that Lee put forward. But at the end of the day, the Denver Nuggets are 6th in the West, but they're only 2 games behind the 76ers in terms of wins. So look at the sort of rosters next to each other and look at the individual performances. Do you think if Do you think if Nicole Yokic got taken out of that lineup, where do you think the Denver Nuggets would be in comparison to taking Joel Embiid out of that 76ers lineup?
You could say the same for taking away any team said superstar.
You could.
Where would the Bucks be without Giannis? Where would the 76ers be without Joel Embiid?
I might also just mention as well, I think durability has to come into this case as well.
Yep.
So Joel Embiid has missed 12 games. Jokic has missed 6. So the games that Jokic hasn't played, the Nuggets been 1-5 without him. Not a good strike rate, is it? 76 has gone 4-8. They've managed.
Yep.
So I think given the fact that Jokic has had an all-around, statistically, better year, had less help. They're only a few games outside of the top 4. Given all this, I think I would be genuinely surprised if he didn't win it this year.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
That's okay.
Both very, very compelling cases and a lot to weigh up there because both are, without a doubt, legitimate cases to win it. It's hard to begin with, I guess. The first point I thought of, initially when I asked this question, and just from the way the media's almost built it almost felt as if it's a foregone conclusion that Embiid will win it.
And that's what I thought as well.
They portray it that way, but it is like a head-on-head race.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a close race.
It is a very close race. And I think, because I likewise did a bit of diving into this just, for the actual question itself. And that was the thing that stood out to me. The point you made, Ro, the fact that Philly is second and have a really good case to probably jump to number 1 over the coming weeks, the way they're playing.
Acquisition of James Harden,
Acquisition of James Harden certainly helps, but the fact they're only 2 games ahead of the Nuggets just shows, I guess, what Jokic is doing. Like, he would have them as a top couple of seed in the East if they were there, whilst doing it without, his 2 biggest running mates. And the fact of the matter is, I think that point, just to sum it up, my answer will be Jokic. And that's not to take away from your argument or what Embiid's doing, but I think that point, if you were to take Embiid out, Philly certainly aren't going to be as good, but they'd still be able to keep things afloat. Whereas if you take out Jokic, they are an absolute train wreck, and he's really making a lot of players around him better, as is Embiid. But I think, Embiid puts up a lot more numbers, which is good, but I think Jokic is probably adding more benefit at the moment. And just purely for the fact, I think there's the potential that James Harden in this last few weeks will take a bit of the shine off what Embiid's doing.
I agreed with all of Lee's points as well. And I think they're all valid points, and it's going to be a super close race.
I think whoever wins it, it's going to be a real tight battle, and they'll certainly will have earned it.
Absolutely. Yes. When doing my research, though, it shocked me to see that basically, statistically, he's having the year that he did last year, apart from the rebounds, where he's up 3.
Yeah.
That's like 3 rebounds over a year.
Is big.
It's enormous. So, oh, dear.
When I was doing my research, I was scared. I was a bit skeptical that the amount of games that Joel Embiid had missed would deter it. He's played 49 games with 21 left. If he plays them all, he would have played 70 all up.
That's not bad.
Giannis, when he won his MVP in 2020, only played 63 games.
Yeah.
LeBron, 2011 with the Heat, played 62. Malone in 99, when he won, only played 49. It just goes to show that it kind of how elite you are outweighs how many games.
Sometimes you just can't be ignored.
Yeah, that's it. There is a bit of weight to it, but sometimes you're right. You just can't. Malone only 49. There you go.
Yeah, that's
phenomenal. That's a great little pick from you there, Lee. Fellas, well done to both. Ro, you take the chocolates on this one.
I'll ask the next question if you don't mind.
Please do. What have you got for us, mate?
So, obviously, you're an NBA fan, so you would have seen the numerous comparisons between Ja Morant this year with Derrick Rose in his absolute prime, which was about the 2010-2011 time frame.
Yep.
There's been so many comparisons. Now, my question to you guys would be, who would you take out of 2011 Derrick Rose and 2022 Ja Morant to lead you to the promised land, a championship? Who would you take out of the 2 of them?
Should I flex some muscle and go first?
Go ahead. I went first last time.
All right, there you go. A little bit of recency bias, of course, but I will go with Ja. And now, the similarities are just incredible. It's almost a like for like. And what Ja's doing, what Derrick Rose did in his MVP season, incredible. Ja, what he is doing with this Grizzlies team is just next level. So similarity is incredible. Ja takes, the cake in scoring and rebounding. Rose gets the nod in assists. Ja gets the nod in the field goal percentage, 3-point percentage. Rose on the free throw. So, pretty similar in all aspects there. The big thing for me, though, is what Ja is doing with such a young team. When Rose was there, granted, it wasn't the greatest team, I guess, but there was experience within that. You look at Carlos Boozer, Cole Korver, Keith Bogans, a couple of other names who provided, a bit of leadership and experience to not only help nurture this team as a whole, but nurture Rose and give him the kind of tools to elevate his own game.
Yep.
So he had a lot more help. Ja's doing this. This team, every single player bar Steven Adams and Kyle Anderson, who are both 28, every single player is under that age. So he's doing it with the youngest team in the league. And it's got them sitting third at the moment. Very, very likely that they're going to jump up to the number 2 seed. And I guess that is my big point. I think the fact is he did it without, any help really on the experience front. He's kind of navigating these waters by himself. Stevie Adams, bit of a locker room guy, which is fantastic, but not to the same level as some of the players that Rose had around him. And I really think this team, as awful as it was, and, God forbid, if he hadn't have got injured, what this Bulls team might have been able to do with Rose at the helm. But I think the Grizzlies, and this is coming from someone who has not believed in them at all over the last few years. Even this year, I had them kind of squabbling down the bottom.
You were a non-believer.
I am a non-believer, but I'm getting to the point now where I have a really good level of confidence in this team, not only to be good this year, but I think the way Ja's going about things, the way he's kind of helping build this young talent around him. You look at Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr., and the crew alike, they are poised. Like OKC, they're a team for the next 5 to 10 years. I think they can really sustain the success they've got. Again, a big part of which due to the fact they're all young. All of these players are young, and they've got players with such high potential, with Ja leading the way. So my argument is they're very similarly matched in actual ability and output.
Yep.
But what Ja's doing with this younger team and leading them the way he is, without really any help or experience, is what's drawn me to Ja in this one. But either way, you couldn't fault having either of them.
100% agree. Now, what was the turning point? I'm just intrigued for you, Nick. What was the turning point for you and your thoughts with the Grizzlies? Because we know, as you pointed out before, you were a non-believer. I don't know if you're still a non-believer.
No, I'm a believer.
You're a big believer now.
I'm a big believer.
But what was that turning point? What did you have to see from the Grizzlies to become a believer?
I think it's just the bulk of work now that have seen enough games to show that it's not just a bit of a anomaly or a purple patch.
Flash in the pan.
Flash in the pan, absolutely, that they can consistently do this. They've done it now on a year-on-year basis, and they're continuing to improve. And just looking at probably the strides that players like Ja have made, Desmond Bain's made.
Big muscles.
That guy is jacked. But I guess them for the point of conversation, namely, along with everyone else, the strides they've made this season, they look like a really more well-rounded, complete team. And the fact that arguably losing one of their biggest pieces in Valanciunas, bringing in Adams, different players, but that has not, they've actually gotten better.
Yes.
So I think that's a testament to the younger players around in this group.
They do get so much exposure as well. Ja Morant is the face of the NBA Instagram right now, and it's deserving as well. So I agree with your points, because I think Ja Morant's a great player as well.
We just quickly, we like throwing fun facts around in the courtroom. Did you guys see that Ja Morant, that video of him hitting that buzzer beater, was the most viewed NBA video of all time?
Really?
On social media.
Wow.
Given the state of social media and how big it is, particularly over the last sort of 10 years, and all the NBA highlights, and for that one to be the most viewed, you can sort of tell that he is going to be the next face.
That was 52 points, a career high for him. Digress slightly, but that game against the Spurs there, that game, it was just the full Ja Morant experience, having the dunks, that full court heave from Stevie Adams, Ja was on the baseline to the side, like falling away. To put that in on the buzzer was just ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
The way he can slither in and around, and the way his game's evolving with his 3-point stroke as well. He's got big things lined up for his career. So
He's a big baller.
I won't go away. I won't take away, Lee.
Now, Lee, what is your response to this?
I've gone with Derrick Rose for mine, obviously. I think recency bias, even like you said, Nick, might help your case a little bit because we've seen Ja more in recent times. But I'm going to try throw you guys back to that 2010-2011 season with D Rose and the Bulls. So that season he averaged 25, 7, and 4. And, you know, you can't really look at stats too much. Even though those are pretty good stats, you can't look at stats from 2011 and then 2022 because it's a completely different game. But I just want to kind of go over the competition that D Rose had to face in the 2010-2011 season. You look at the point guards, he had to go up against New Orleans CP3, OKC Russ, Steph Curry, Tony Parker when he was in probably near his prime. But forget about the point guards. Think about the rest of the competition. You had to go up against the King LeBron when he was in arguably his prime as well over at the Miami Heat.
He was.
You had to go up against Kobe, Dirk, KD. And he beat them all. Not only did he beat them all for that MVP race, he beat them all at 22 years of age, being the youngest in NBA history to do so. First point, that competition was just... competition's always hard, but that's some damn hard competition.
Was.
I want to go to what D Rose led the Bulls to and a bit throughout the playoffs. So D Rose led them to not only the playoffs, but the best record in the league at 62-20. And that was the first time that had happened with the Bulls since 1997 with MJ. Round 1, they beat Paul George's and Danny Granger's Pacers, led by who? Derrick Rose. Round 2, they beat one of the better defensive teams in the Atlanta Hawks. Who led them to them wins? Derrick Rose again. Round 3, Eastern Conference Finals, they went down to the Miami Heat. But I challenge you to find a team that would go up against, you know, LeBron James in his prime, D-Wade, Chris Bosh, and come out on top. So, I don't know. It's hard to find a team. And then probably the most unfortunate and heartbreaking thing to not only happen in NBA history, but I'd say sporting history. He suffered a ACL tear in his left knee during the 2012 first round playoffs against the Philadelphia 76ers, and his career kind of took a unfortunate, you know, sharp decline from there. But it's just crazy to think that we didn't even really see prime D Rose, because I don't think he had reached his prime yet. And that just goes to show how good D Rose actually was at that time. And let me just finish it off. In the wise words of LeBron James, even when a superhero gets kicked down, he's still a superhero. D Rose for mine.
Did LeBron say that, did he?
He did.
I must have missed that
I
one,
missed
but
that
I
one
like
too.
it.
He's still a...
Still a superhero.
I was waiting to hear what quote would come out, what wise words of wisdom would come out of Lee's mouth. Oh, my goodness. In our history of doing this segment, this one has me the most torn. Still to this moment as I'm talking, I don't have a clear winner because I see valid points for both sides. Now, Lee got me with the nostalgia.
Not the superhero line.
He didn't get me with the superhero line, even though I did like that. But Lee did get me with the nostalgia side of things because I think he's right in saying that the recency bias probably does help your case, Nick, in terms of we're seeing this
right
as
now.
the current moment. Whereas I think back to when I was getting into basketball and it was my first few years watching basketball, Derrick Rose was superhuman. At that point, apart from maybe LeBron, I hadn't seen someone who impressed me that much on a nightly basis. Now, your points on Ja Morant, Nick, in terms of being as young as he is, with a young squad, leading from the front, you know, hopefully in the future taking them to the promised land, that really jumped out at me. And I think that deserves a lot of weight as well, because I think it just goes to show the type of player that he is, that he will no doubt be the leader for this team for a long time to come.
Yeah.
But
The dreaded but.
My answer is at the time of before Derrick Rose's injury, I would still take Derrick Rose in his prime, despite what we're seeing from Ja at the moment. Not to say that he won't go down and he won't win championships, but I think not going down with that ACL injury, I had full belief that eventually that Chicago Bulls team, led by Derrick Rose, would have taken them to the promised land.
Yeah.
I feel almost a little bit sick in saying this because Ja Morant is one of, if not the most exciting player in the league with so much upside at the moment. But you know what? It just goes to show how good Derrick Rose was before he went down with that injury. Yeah. Some people might be thinking it's a no-brainer in terms of going with Ja Morant just because of, I guess, what we've seen from him, particularly this year. But Derrick Rose, I remember it as clear as day, and I think the nostalgia aspect has gotten to me a little bit, but also just knowing how incredible of a player, once in a generation type player he was. And the saddest thing was for him to go down the way he did. I'm so sorry, Nick. Congrats to Lee. He's taken that one.
Flat. I just I get so close every time.
You put in an incredible case, and to be honest, I didn't make my decision until I was talking. I had to do it on the go, but Derrick Rose for mine.
You guys ever seen the movie? I think is it American Psycho with Edward Norton?
American Psycho. Is that
no?
Patrick
What's it
Bateman?
called? No, not American Psycho. What's it called again?
I don't even know who
Edward Norton.
Yeah, he used to play the Hulk.
Anyway. Norton, here's a who.
Yeah, anyway, there's a scene in there where it's like, it's not American. Yeah, I got mixed up there, but there's a scene where like it's full curb stomp. Gets the guy's jaw over the curb and just like that's the end of him. I feel like that. I feel like I've just had my mouth on the curb and you've just put the boot straight through me.
Do you though? Because for both my debates, the Joel Embiid, Nicole Yokic one, and this one, I can see both sides of the story so well.
I do, but I just needed a win.
But he wanted a theatre.
But I do like both these ones, and I think even the next one as well. Like these. I think we say this every week, but I truly believe these three battles, and we're about to go to yours now, are probably the three hardest to separate.
Yes.
Absolutely. I had cases for both sides on every single one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well done to you there, Lee.
Yes. Okay.
As Nick wipes his tears away from his face.
You have a chance to redeem
I
yourself,
do,
though.
yeah. So, move on. Onwards and upwards.
Spark up. So,
and I reckon you've got a good chance.
Now, my
in the towel, mate.
No, I'm not throwing in the towel, but I'm just giving you a bit of motivation to keep you going so you don't walk out at this early stage of the pod.
Thanks, pal.
That's all right.
Okay.
What do you got, Lee?
My question is, who had the bigger impact on their team throughout their championship seasons? Dennis Rodman and the Bulls, or Draymond Green with the Golden State Warriors?
You up first this time?
Yeah, I can go first this time. Yep, absolutely. So this is another extremely tricky one. I have gone with Dennis Rodman. Now, I don't think the best player in the game to ever have played the game in Michael Jordan would recruit you if he didn't think that you were going to serve him as a valuable asset to win a championship. Now, of course, we know how the story went. We all watched The Last Dance, and some of us watched it live. They won the three-peat with Dennis Rodman coming over in the 96, 97, 98 seasons. So we know just from that standpoint that he's come across to that team and he's served as almost the difference in those years, coming up against some of the best big men of all time, particularly like Karl Malone in some of those years, was arguably, and Shaq, arguably the best big men in the game at that time. But I don't think you think of those championships that both he won with Chicago and to a certain extent with the Detroit Pistons prior to coming to Chicago without Dennis Rodman. We saw in his early years in Detroit how valuable he was to that team, so much so that in the conference finals in 89 and 90, the team that he was on defeated Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls.
True.
Now I think that's an incredible stat. In terms of playing his role selflessly and with probably the most energy and passion that I've seen out of a player in NBA history, Rodman would have to be that player. He could have 20 boards. He could have 10 of those offensive boards, but he could also have 0 points and 0
Yeah.
assists, but he would be he would sometimes be the most impactful player on the court at that time, just due to the stuff that he was doing on the defensive end. His ability to take monster boards, his ability to defend these guys with a level of physicality that I don't think we have ever seen before, and to a level, Nick, that I don't think we'll ever see again. So I think he was such an important part of the championship teams that he was a part of. And it's crazy to think also, I know this doesn't necessarily relate to the championships in those years necessarily, but in those 3 years that he was with the Chicago Bulls, he became the all-time leading rebounder per game for the Chicago Bulls just in those 3 years. It just shows the impact that he had, despite his personality, which was, we all know, which was eccentric to say the least. And we know his off-court stuff was could have been a deterrent for some teams, but Michael Jordan, the best player to ever have played the game, believed in him so much and believed in his ability to lead them, well, not lead them, but to assist them in winning their championships, that he let all that other stuff go down by the wayside. So I think he is probably, it is an extremely tough one, but I think Rodman in those championship years has had a bigger impact on that team than Nick's man here.
Okay, so I've gone Draymond Green. I would just kind of fire back in the sense that, even when he was with the Pistons, Rodman, the Bulls were good.
Oh, they were. Absolutely.
They were good. They went on to win the next couple of championships after that, even before he came on board. So they were already the elite team within the league before they added Rodman. And it's kind of like the Warriors adding KD afterwards.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an extra piece that wasn't needed. It helped. So, as good as he was, they still would have been a good team without him. Whereas Draymond is the heart and soul of the Warriors. He's a better, more vocal leader, enhancing for as good as, I guess for the Bulls, everyone feeds off Rodman's energy, which is great, and it's second to none, no debating that. But likewise, Draymond's energy, everything flows through him, and the ability for him to actually vocalize and kind of coach this team on the court is huge. We've all seen clips. There's a real one of him guiding James Wiseman. I think it was last season. And actually breaking down plays. The way he can nurture the younger players, I think he does a better job of, and kind of almost playing that role as coach with Steve Kerr. As a player, I think there's no doubting whatsoever Rodman, arguably the greatest rebounder of all time. But I think Draymond on the court is more well-rounded. His ability to be a triple-double threat almost every night in the sense of scoring, shoots the three-point ball. Rodman never did that. He doesn't shoot it as a great clip, but at least he takes it and is a piece to his arsenal.
Yep.
He can rebound the ball well and really bang with some of the bigger guys and lock down on the defensive end as well. But his playmaking as well. What he does, this team is focused around Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. He probably doesn't get the accolades he sometimes deserves. But if you watch the way they've been playing the last month or two without Draymond, there is a real clear correlation between their wins with him on the court and without him. So I guess probably my main piece is looking at what Draymond does with the players around him in terms of probably elevating them more, whereas Rodman was probably, in some regards, a better player in certain aspects. I think Draymond elevates the team at a greater level just with his ability to be an on-floor general.
Yes. Okay.
Being the key piece. I won't go into too many stats, but I think that is a pretty clear and paramount point for the case of Draymond Green.
Okay.
And I would be very, very surprised, I guess, just on that point, if we don't see him. We know he's going into a media role now, but in a coaching role in the future. Just thus is his ability to direct.
His leadership ability is through the roof.
Phenomenal. And that, he is a huge piece, is what transforms them into a dynasty. Yeah. Before him, they weren't really anything. Whereas the Bulls were already a good team. So that's what my argument hinges on there.
Okay. This is tough. They're both very good arguments put forth, and it is so tough. They both have so many similarities, though. I don't think either of the Chicago Bulls or the Golden State Warriors would have won as many as they did and succeed as well as they did without either of those guys on the team. they're similar in the way that they just do what they need to do. You know, they don't try and be flashy. They don't go outside their kind
30 points a game.
Yeah,
They play their role.
They play their role
Yep.
to a T. The thing that is going to give my answer the edge here is Draymond Green's leadership skills and what he does do with the other players around him. And you look at Dennis Rodman for how good he was. He just doesn't bring that element to the table. Instead, he was off in Vegas and he was off in the wrestling arena. So he was there. Whereas Draymond Green, you're completely right in saying he's 100%. If he chooses to, of course, he has the ability of being a future coach in the NBA. He makes everyone around him better. He's a triple-double threat. Each night he goes out in the court. And like I said, I don't think the Golden State Warriors would have won as many championships as they did if he was not on that team. So for that reason, I'm going with Nick and Draymond Green.
Fellas, we all jagged one today.
I like that. I like how that ended, to be perfectly honest with you. As much as I wanted to win that last one, goodness me, I could see the tears welling up in your eyes, Nick. I was thinking, oh, God, I hope he gets this one.
Fellas, I tell you what, like as we said halfway through there, I truly, truly believe they are probably our three most equal battles. All of them you could have flipped a coin with. And even as we asked the questions in our group, just nutting out the episode, it was like, oh, gee, which way? Because they're a really compelling case. It's
could have gone either
for
way.
all options there. So I had a lot of fun doing that. I really enjoyed it. Guys, let us know. Hit us up on our socials during the week. Send us a message. Drop it on the post, whatever else. If you think we made the right decisions with these battles, where we went right, where we went wrong, and who you would have put forth in your argument. What points would you have brought to the table? We love hearing from you guys. Let's quickly just do the week that was.
The Daily Dribble.
Now, we're pretty deep in the piece here, so I'm going to do it as a bit of a speed round here, but just want to make a couple of points here.
You go.
So, the Harden Embiid duo, we mentioned during the episode on Embiid there, these guys are looking the absolute business. And I think, like we might have mentioned it a moment ago, we really need to start considering them as serious, serious title threats.
You're not?
Well,
you're not right now.
I am now, and more so now over the last week or two, just seeing what Harden has brought to this team.
Yeah.
Like once they made the acquisition, it was still probably maybe seen as them below the rung of maybe even the Nets for as poorly as they're doing, below the Bucks, maybe the Suns, but they are in that top tier,
top echelon, aren't they?
So do you think we're going to see? Here's my question: are we going to see Philly in the NBA Finals? Are they going to come out of the East? Yes or no? What have you got?
I'm saying yes, and it might be recency bias because I've done so much research on Joel Embiid and heard so many good things about him. But I truly, to my core, think they're going to come out the East. Will they win their finals? I don't know, but I have faith in saying that they're coming out the East on top.
That is so tough.
Bro, let me ask you this then, just to help maybe give a little bit of clarity. In a matchup, let's say it goes to the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's say it's the Bucks versus Philly.
I was thinking about.
What have you got?
Bucks were the other team that I was thinking about. I would go and stay with the Bucks, to be perfectly honest with you. Yep. Even with the acquisition.
And
my big point hinges on if Brook Lopez is back, I will say the Bucks. If he's not back, I'm taking Philly.
Yeah, Joel Embiid. Who would he go up against?
Serge Ibaka.
Serge.
I think Embiid could do a bit of damage there. So if Brook Lopez is back, I'll say the Bucks. If not, say Philly.
But then who's guarding Giannis?
I don't even know who.
You can put Big Toby on him.
Yeah, Toby's not standing a chance against Giannis, is he? It's
I tell you what, it's going to be such a good matchup. I can't wait to see what they can do. On the other side, the Timberwolves. Currently sitting 7th at the minute, and they've kind of had an up and down season there. It's starting to go on the up, peaking at the right time. How do we feel about the Timberwolves? Do we think they can make some noise?
I think,
what do you think of them as a team?
Okay, let me say, as a team, they're probably my second favorite team right now. I absolutely love the Timberwolves. Do I think they'll make some noise? No, not this year. Unfortunately not. But I think next year, once they get a bit more in the works with each other, not that they aren't this year, but once they have time to improve with each other, they're going to be scary. Like, I absolutely love them. I remember this week,
Oh, I
Me and
knew this
Ro-
was coming up.
Me and Ro always on Wednesday night. We play 3 games. I got Timberwolves 2 times in a row, and when you get 2 times in a row the same team, you're like, okay, I'll go again. I was like, no, I'm going
want
back
the
to back.
Wolves.
I love the Wolves.
No, look, D'Angelo Russell was broken that
He
night.
actually-
He was just like, there was just greens all over the
Yeah.
place.
It makes it tough. And like, what
does.
they're doing though with that big three in Edwards, Cat, and Russell, like it's not a team on, especially like as an offensive force that you want to come up against
No.
on a given night.
No, they've got their core group of guys ready to go.
They
Haven't
just
they?
feel 1 or 2 pieces, maybe around
Yep.
the edges, just from being legitimate kind of threats.
I don't think in the starting lineup because I really like Vanderbilt and
Yeah.
Pat Bev there.
I think they
point
just
guard.
need maybe another out and out scorer. Beasley's kind of hit and miss.
Yeah, they
If
need to
they had like a hero to bring off,
Oh.
they would be.
be scary.
Watch
Oh,
out.
dear.
Don't want to mention it. My boys, the Lakers, an absolutely horrible run at the
no.
minute. They went down 132 to 111 versus the Clippers yesterday. And again, they should have just won out and out. To start the third quarter, like I was watching, I had this on the big TV at work, and I was like, you got to be taking the piss. They gave up a 26-2 run to start the third quarter, effectively ended the game.
Yes.
Is their season over? Like, is this a wrap? Is there any hope that they can possibly make some noise in the play-in and the playoffs after that, should they make it? Like, or is this, it's over?
I think it's over. I wouldn't put it past them to get into the playoffs, but I don't.
To be honest, at this rate, if they lose a couple more games and if the Blazers
I know.
actually cared, they could drop out of the play-in.
Yeah, and I wouldn't. I
So-
feel confident in saying they wouldn't even make it past the first round because if they do get in the playoffs, it's at that 7 or 8 spot,
Mm.
and if you're going up against who the Suns or
So let's just say
Or the
if,
Golden
if
State
things
Warriors.
ended today, so in the play-in would have the Wolves playing the Clippers, the Lakers playing the Pelicans. So the winner, or the loser, should I say, of the Clippers-Wolves game would play the winner of the Lakers-Pelicans. Let's just say Lakers beat the Pelicans, which is not going to be an easy task given the way the Pelicans are going and the way the Lakers are playing. If the Lakers should somehow beat the loser of that game, the Timberwolves and Clippers, their reward is then coming up against the Phoenix Suns,
yeah, exactly.
who, you know,
Oh,
they are
no.
going to absolutely wax us, I reckon.
Yes.
Oh.
Like, it is going to take a borderline miracle for them to make any noise this year. It's been such a disappointment.
Isn't it funny how a year
Oh.
changes in basketball? Like I think was it last year we were talking about how the Lakers were coming up against the Phoenix Suns in the first round of the playoffs, and we were thinking, poor Phoenix, like you
Their
know, to
rewards,
finish as
yeah.
high as they did and to come up against the Lakers, and now this year you're thinking the Lakers would stand absolutely zero chance against Phoenix Suns at full strength.
But in fairness, did you see the comments Draymond made, was it yesterday, about the fact that once he heard like the Lakers fans were booing the other day
Oh.
in their game against
Yeah.
the Clippers, and he pretty much called them spoiled brats.
Yeah, I
just for
agree.
the sense that we won a championship like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And, yet
And
people
you've
seem
got
to have forgotten
LeBron.
that already. So
You've got LeBron still there, not taking him.
a
you know,
very
taking
disappointing
him for granted.
season thus far, though. They're going to have to really hope that AD comes back as an absolute monster.
God, when? Buddy, 6 weeks.
Yeah, we've got a couple of weeks to go, so fingers crossed there. Fellas, been a massive episode.
It's been a great
It's
one.
been a good episode.
Yeah.
Always love having these debates with us. It always brings a little bit of fire and intensity, and it's always good for us as well just to kind of express ourselves and kind of duke it out to see who's the top dog here.
Yes.
Guys, we've got some big stuff coming with Manscaped. Shout out again to the Spotlight Sports Network and The Cover. We'll be back next week with another action-packed episode. Make sure to use that link in our bio, Dribble20 for 20% off at manscaped.com.au.
And free shipping.
And free shipping.
free shipping. That's the
absolutely.
big one.
The big
let's be
one.
honest.
Till next week, guys. Love you. Bye.